Hello everyone, my name is Angie Garcia. I study audiovisual communication and multimedia at the University of La Sabana. This review comes to you thanks to the Multimedia Workshop Animation Module. This video is presented to the Professor Rigoberto Sáenz. Our team is Comsabana Invaders and is made up by Miguel Ángel Cárdenas, Brian Nicolás Rojas, Laura Victoria Perdomo, David Santiago Zanabria, and me, Angie Garcia. Well, let's start. Underworld Office is a chat-style interactive story and adventure horror game released by Prof Studio for Android and iOS mobile devices in 2020. Eugene, a troubled young teen, accidentally crosses the border between this world and the next. When a mysterious ghost saves his life and demands payment in return, Eugene finds himself working under a strange group of ghosts called the Underworld Office, who is turned his life upside down. About the company, Prof Studio is a Korean independent video game developer company founded in July 2014 by Kim Do-hyung. Their first game, Prof Night, launched on mobile app stores, was #1 paid game on both Google Play and Apple App Store in Korea, #1 paid RPG game on both Google Play and Apple App Store in Japan, and the game had more than 2 million downloads. The game won the Korean Indie Game Award in 2014. Its director says that Prof Studio understands the true power of games and creates games to the both people and the world. About Underworld Office, its target audience are casual gamers, young people with access to Android or iOS devices with a taste for adventure and horror stories and an interest in independent games. Its business model is freemium, since you can pay money to get tickets that allow you to advance in the story or watch advertisement to look a certain amount of tickets. The game has a puntuation of 4.8 in Google Play Store and 4.9 in Apple App Store. About the characters, there are mortals and ghosts or monsters. Between mortals, it's Eugene, the protagonist, Jack, the antagonist, and the side characters are Luke, Linda, Oliver, Tatum, Finley, and Joy. About monsters and ghosts, there is the boss that is the main of the ghost, River, Joan, and Jaden. The antagonist in the monsters is Charlie, and the side characters in monsters are Sin, Kitty, and Susan. The story is divided into 7 chapters whose narration changes according to the decisions made by the player. About the mechanics and the controls, the game is designed to be developed through the touch screen of mobile devices, which allows that its chat style unfolds intuitively. What I like the most about the game is its graphic styles, since I can think that each of its illustration and animation are beautiful, and in addition, the fact that I feel very identified with the personality of Eugene, the protagonist. We give this video game a score of 9 out of 10.
Now we're going to talk about Call of Duty World War II. It's a 2017 first-person shooter video game developed by Sledgehammer Games and published by Activision. It was released worldwide on November 3 of 2017 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. It's the 14th main installment in the Call of Duty series and is the first title in the series to be set primarily during World War II, since Call of Duty World War in 2008. Sledgehammer Games Inc. is an American video game developer company formed in 2009 by Glenn Schofield and Michael Condrey. The pair formerly worked at Visceral Games and are responsible for the creation of Dead Space. The company is an independent yet wholly owned subsidiary of Activision and is based in Foster City, California. The studio is known for developing or co-developing various video games in the Call of Duty series. After founding Sledgehammer Games on July 21 of 2009, Schofield and Condrey made an Activision a proposal. They would attempt to replicate their success with Dead Space with a third-person spin-off of Call of Duty franchise. Activision sat on the proposal for weeks until Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick offered to bring the studio into the Activision fold. Scotchfield and Country accepted, viewing Activision's independent studio model as an opportunity to preserve the company's creative culture, development methodology, and staff, while having the security of an alliance with the industry's largest publisher. According to the ESRB, which is Entertainment Software Rating Board, Call of Duty World War II is rated as mature 17 or more, which is blood and gore, intense violence, and strong language. In this one, the players assume the role of an American soldier through the Allied company in Europe during World War II. Players use machine guns, shotguns, rocket launchers, and explosives to kill enemy soldiers. Some weapon attacks result in decapitation and or dismemberment, leaving blood stains and body parts on the ground. Battles are frenetic and accompanied by realistic gunfire, screams and pain, and large explosions. This game is not similar to its recent predecessors. Instead, it features a return of traditional movement to the series, taking it back to an original boots on the ground, which refers to non-aerial ground combat gameplay style. Also, World War II includes a zombies cooperative game mode similar to previous entries by Treyarch and Infinity Ward, with its own original storyline set in an alternate story and separate from the campaign. Even though Call of Duty World War II is not the best game of the series, it changes all the mistakes that the franchise was committed before. Coming back to the origins, I'll give it a 9 in the main play and I give it a 4 in the multiplayer game, because there is nothing new. But talking in general, is a good game.
Assassin's Creed Origins, released in 2017, is a video game where you control Bayek of Siwa, the last Magi. The Magi are a group of warriors destined to protect the pharaoh. After witnessing the murder of his son, Bayek searches for those responsible for it, embarking on a quest for revenge throughout Egypt, which little by little will be transformed into a search for justice as he witnessed the oppressive actions of the Order of the Ancients, a group that seeks to control the world from the shadows. So Bayek decides to end this order, thus founding the Order of the Hidden Ones, which centuries later will become the Order of the Assassins. This game was developed by Ubisoft, and this is the history of the company. The 5 brothers of the Guillemot family, Yves, Claude, Michel, Gerard, and Christian, found Ubisoft as a publisher of computer games in 1986 in France. In 1989, the company launched what would be the first video game developed by Ubisoft. It was called Zombie.3. In the early 1990s, Ubisoft began its video game development program at the company, which resulted in the opening of a studio in France in 1994. In 2000s, Ubisoft acquired the American company Red Storm Entertainment, the developer of the series Tom Clancy, based on the stories of the novel writer Tom Clancy. In the later 1990s and early 2000s, Ubisoft committed to online games behind Uru, Age Beyond Mist, The Matrix Online, and the European and Chinese operation of EverQuest. This video game is an action-adventure game developed for players between 17 and 23 years old of intermediate professional level, interested in ancient Egyptian history, who have the means to access a PS4 and who have between 2 and 4 hours a day to play. This game works in PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows, Stadia, and it's rated by the ESRB as mature 17+, blood and gore, drugs reference, intense violence, nudity, sexual content, strong language, and use of alcohol. The main characters are Bayek of Siwa, one of the founders of the Order of the Assassins, middle-aged, and is the last of the Medjay, a line of warriors who served in the Old Kingdom and who had as their symbol the Eye of Horus. Sinu, it is an eagle that will be able to use its recognition power in Bayek's missions. Aya of Alexandria, Bayek's wife and founder of the Assassin's Order along with Bayek. And Leila Hassan, she is a present-day Abstergo Industries engineer. The main enemies are Julius Caesar, consul and Roman dictator, main antagonist of the game, Although at first he is presented as an ally, since Cleopatra forms an alliance with him to remove his brother Ptolemy XIII for the throne of Egypt. Ptolemy XIII. He is a corrupt pharaoh, influenced by his close circle made up of people who belong to the Order of the Ancients. Order of the Ancients. The Order of the Ancients sought to find relics of the gods to promote peace and progress under their rule. It is one of the predecessor groups of what would later be known as the Order of the Templars, the main antagonist of the Assassin's Creed saga. Egyptian gods. Throughout a failure in the Animus, it is possible to face three gods of Egyptian mythology: Anubis, the god of death, Sobek, the crocodile god, and Sekhmet, goddess of war and revenge. You can play mainly in two levels. The first one is the Ptolemaic Egypt. Almost the entire video game takes place in Egypt in the 1st century before Christ. In this place you can find cities such as Alexandria, Siwa, and Memphis. And the other level is the Katara Depression. It is the place where Layla finds Bajek's tomb and from where she sets up her base of operations to relive the memories of this. For the game mechanics, this is the first Assassin's Creed to feature RPG-style gameplay, where the character has almost total freedom of exploration from the start, as well as a level progression system, up to a maximum of 40. With each level up, you get skill points that you can spend on the skill tree depending on the playstyle you want to play. Similarly, throughout the world you can find equipment with unique characteristics and bonuses. The classic stealth and hidden blade assassination mechanics are present in this game, as well as the return of the bow, a stealth weapon not seen since Assassin's Creed 3. The player can upgrade the blade to deal more damage as the game progresses, and can crouch to lower its detection rate and use the bushes for cover. The player can control Bajek with the right stick, while the left stick controls the camera. During combat with R1 he attacks, and with L1 he raises his shield to stop attacks. With square, dodge attacks, and this also works out of combat. But in and out of combat with L2 he aims his bow, and with R2 he shoots it. For the first time in the series, Eagle Sight is not an extrasensory ability, but now takes the literal form of an eagle. By pressing up on the directional buttons, the player will take control of Xenu, who serves as a recon drone identifying points of interest and enemies. By pressing down, you can whistle to lure enemies into position, and by holding it down, you call your horse. With the left button, change the rank weapons, and with the right, the melee. To view the map, the player presses the touchpad. By pressing triangle out of combat and close to an enemy, the character will do a stealth kill. The X and O buttons are used to control parkour. With X, it goes up, and with O, it goes down. Finally, the player can access the photo mode by pressing both joysticks at the same time. All that said, the score we put to the game is 7 of 10. For some people it could be very long. It has some bugs and have a microtransaction system that is not liked by many people. It has a good story, good characters, and a good atmosphere that emulates the ancient Egypt.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Miguel Cárdenas and I'm going to review Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 is an action-adventure game developed and published by Rockstar Games. The game is also the prequel to the 2010 game Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption 2 was released for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One in October 2018, and for PC and Stadia in November 2019. But before we get into this incredible game, I want to introduce the company behind this masterpiece. Rockstar Games is an American video game publisher based in New York City. The company was established in December 1998 as a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive, using the assets Take-Two had previously acquired from BMG Interactive. Founding members of the company were Sam and Dan Houser, Terry Dobonan, and Jamie King, who worked for Take-Two at the time, and of which the Houser brothers were previously executives at DNH Interactive. Its biggest franchise is Grand Theft Auto, which Rockstar Games took over from BMG Interactive, which published the series' original 1997 entry. And the most recent game in the series, GTA V, became one of the best-selling video games of all the time. But Rockstar has also other popular franchises like Red Dead Redemption, Midnight Club, Max Payne, and Manhunt. So, with this context given, let's jump right into the game. As it was already said, Red Dead Redemption 2 is an action-adventure game, but single-player and multiplayer, and its target audience are players between the age of 18 and 27, professional level, and interested in the Wild West and in the deep immersive stories. Also, it is cataloged as Mature Plus 17, as a consequence for its content with high blood, gore, drug reference, intense violence, nudity, sexual content, strong language, and use of alcohol. The story is set in 1899 in a fictionalized representation of the western United States and follows outlaw Arthur Morgan, a member of the Vanderlyn gang. Arthur must deal with the decline of the Wild West whilst attempting to survive against government forces, rival gangs, and other adversaries. The story also follows the gang member John Marston, the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption. The player takes the role of Arthur Morgan, a veteran member of the Vanderlyn gang. The gang is led by Dutch Vanderlyn, a charismatic man who supports personal freedom and declines to enter the modern civilization. The gang also includes Dutch's best friend and co-leader, Hosea Matthews. And as it was already said, there's also John Marston, which becomes a playable character late in the story. Also, there is his wife, Abigail Roberts, and his son, Jack Marston. There are also some gunslingers, such as Bill Williamson, Javier Escuela, and Mika Bell. This last one becomes an enemy late in the story. And finally, there's a Native American hunter named Charles Smith, and a housewife that's turned into a bounty hunter named Sadie Adler. These characters get in conflict with various opposing forces, including the oil magnate Levitus Cornwell, the team of agents from the Pinkerton Detective Agency, the Saint Denis-based Italian crime lord Angelo Bronte, the controversial Warman ruler Alberto Fusar, and Dutch nemesis, Colm O'Driscoll, leader of the rival O'Driscoll gang. Also, along their travels, the gang becomes entangled with the Grey and Brightweight families, two families who are rumored to be hoarding cyberwar gold. And well, things don't turn out good. For the families anyways. Leaving behind the characters, the game is set in 5 fictitious US states. The states of New Hanover, Ambarino, and Lemoyne are the new to the series, and are located to the north and east of the first game world, whilst the state of New Austin and West Elizabeth return from Red Dead Redemption and become playable environments late in the story. About the gameplay, the game is set in an open world environment, and for most of the game the player controls Arthur Morgan as he completes numerous missions, also known as linear scenarios with set objectives, to progress through the story. Outside of missions, the player might freely roam the game's interactive world, and there's a lot of different ways in which the player can explore this incredible world. Horses are the main form of transportation, of which there are various breeds, each with different attributes. Stagecoaches and trains can also be used to travel, whereas the player might also witness or take part in random events encountered from exploring the game world. These include ambushes, crimes committed by other people, assistance, drive-by shootings, public executions, and animal attacks. The player might also take part in side activities, which include small attacks with companions and strangers, dwelling, bounty hunting, searching for treasures or other collectibles around the map, such as rock carvings, and also playing poker, blackjack, dominoes, and five-finger flair. Hunting animals also plays a major role in the game, providing food, income, and materials for crafting items. When hunting, player needs to take into account several factors, including the choice of weapon and shoot placement, which affect the quality of the meat and pelt and the price traders are willing to pay. The game focuses heavily on player choice for the story and missions. Certain moments in the story will give the player the option to accept or decline additional missions and lightly shape the plot around their choices. Gunfights are an essential mechanic in the game. The player can take cover, free aim, and target a person or animal. Individual body parts can also be targeted to take targets down without killing them. Weapons consist of pistols, revolvers, repeaters, rifles, shotguns, bows, explosives, lassos, mountain gunly guns, and melee weapons such as knives and tomahawks. One of the main unique gameplay mechanics of the franchise is the Dead Eye, a targeting system that allows the player to slow down time and mark targets. Once the targeting sequence ends, the player fires to every marker location in a very short space of time. and that would cover all of the essential aspects of the gameplay in Red Dead Redemption 2. Therefore, taking into account all of these elements, the immersive experience of Red Dead Redemption 2 is unique and wholesome, making the player believe they are actually on the real Old West in the late 19th century. And finally, I want to talk about the controls or keybinds of the game. Since I'm doing this review on the PC version, the keyboard and mouse are the principal elements to interact with the game. So let's start with the general controls. You can use WASD to walk, you can hold shift to run, you can press Ctrl to crunch, you can press space to jump, you can press H to whistle to your house, you can press Q to hide behind a cover, you can press B to open the back, you can press J to open your journal, you can press Tab to open the weapons menu, you can press V to switch the camera, you can press R to pick up or carry something, you can press G to interact with the animal, you can press the left button of the mouse to attack or shoot, you can press the right button of the mouse to aim or to move the camera, you can press M to open the map, and finally you can press E to interact with something, to get on your horse or to get inside a vehicle. And now let's talk about the controls during the combat. As I mentioned before, you can press the left button of your mouse to attack or to shoot, you can press the right button of your mouse to aim or to focus attention, you can press F to make a melee attack, you can press R to block, or you can press R to reload the weapon if you have one in your hands. You can press Q to mark the enemies while using the dead eye, you can scroll the middle button of your mouse to change the weapons, you can press the numbers above the letters to select a specific weapon, and finally you can press the cap lock to activate the dead eye. And now to summarize, we can see that Red Dead Redemption 2 is a very large game in all of its aspects, especially when we talk about the gameplay and how the player can interact with the world in order to get more immersed. But the graphics and the realism of its animations also helps a lot to get the player closer to that realistic experience of the Old West. We can conclude that Rockstar made an incredible job, just like it did with GTA 5 and the rest of its games. From the gameplay to the graphics and going through the history and the music, Red Dead Redemption 2 is an adventure that every person that likes video games should experience one time at least. But as in every aspect of life, not everyone thinks the same. So the average score of my team for this game is a 9 out of 10.
Mario & Luigi Bowser Inside Story, released in 2009, is a video game where Bowser is tricked by Fawful, who disguises himself as a merchant to give him a mushroom that, when eaten, causes him to absorb everything around him, thus absorbing Mario, Luigi, Peach, Starlow, and many Toads, leaving the kingdom unprotected. Having no idea what happened, but identifying Fawful as an enemy for wanting to rule the kingdom, Bowser sets out on an adventure to defeat him and gain control of the kingdom. Unbeknownst to him, he will be helped by Mario and Luigi, who have the goal of saving the kingdom from both Fawful and Bowser. This game was developed by Nintendo, a Japanese company that was founded in 1989 by Fusajiro Yamauchi. At that time, the company was founded under the name of Nintendo Kopai and was dedicated to the development of a card game called Hanafuda. The first official video game made by Nintendo was a 1978 arcade computer Othello, with a long list of similar games appearing in the following years. Radar Scope and Donkey Kong stood out as the most famous of those games. In 1983, the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, was born. An 8-bit console launched by Nintendo Japan under the name of Famicom, from Family Computer, which served as the basis for all the controls of the later consoles. Along with the NES, great gems of video games appeared such as Mario Bros. 1983, The Legend of Zelda 1986, Donkey Kong, Mega Man, or Metroid, releases with which the golden age for Nintendo began with great profits. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System, also known as the Super NES or SNES, was a resounding success for Nintendo, making almost immediate profits, in part because the NES already had many loyal fans. This 16-bit console had the enormous virtue of having a very wide range of games, which was liked by the fans. Following the success of the previous console, the Nintendo 64 was born, in honor of 64 bits. This console that appeared in 1996 with its star video game Super Mario 64. The resounding success of this console was the introduction to 3D, where one could move the cameras of the game to have a view of everything around us. In 2001, the Nintendo GameCube was born, a new generation console that came to try to do battle with consoles such as the Xbox or PlayStation 2, who had already taken the measure of Nintendo. In 2006, the Wii arrived, a console whose first change was the name, as it left aside the word Nintendo to be called only Wii. Nintendo tried something new by introducing a wireless remote control capable of detecting movement and rotation in three-dimensional space. Mario & Luigi Bowser Inside the Story is a role game developed for players between 10 and 16 years old of a beginner or intermediate level interested in role-playing games who have the means to access a DS or 3DS and who have between 1 and 2 hours a day to play, and it works in Nintendo DS and Nintendo 3DS. This game is rated by the ESRB as everyone, comic mischief, mild cartoon violence. The main characters are Bowser, Mario's sworn archenemy. He lives strange and unexpected adventures during his journey to defeat Fawful. Mario, the plumber and hero of the Mushroom Kingdom, will have to collaborate with Bowser and many times save him in order to save the kingdom. Luigi, Mario's brother. He will unconditionally help his brother to save the kingdom. And Starlow, Mario and Luigi's companion, who was also absorbed by Bowser and will often act as a guide and intermediary. And the main enemies are Fawful. He is the main antagonist of the game. Seek the power of the Dark Star to rule the world. He drew up a meticulous plan after his master had been defeated years ago by Mario and Luigi in the Bean Bean Kingdom. He has deep knowledge of mechanics and robotics, making many gadgets and weapons to try to stop Bowser and the brothers. Midboss, Fawful's bodyguard. He is a pig with Bowser's strength and size and will often prevent Bowser from getting close to Fawful. And the Dark Star, an evil star of colossal power, buried centuries ago under the Mushroom Kingdom. After absorbing Bowser's DNA, he transforms into Dark Bowser. For the main levels, we have Bowser's body. As they are absorbed, Mario and Luigi will progressively explore Bowser's body, finding things that he absorbed and sometimes improving his abilities, as well as saving him from the times he may have died. Some of the body locations are the Challenge Knot, the Pipe Yard, and the Trash Pit, and the Mushroom Kingdom. This is Peach Kingdom. Both Bowser and Fawful want to rule it. Bowser will undertake his adventure touring the kingdom in search of his allies, in order to defeat Fawful. Some locations in the kingdom are Peach's Castle, Bowser's Castle, Toad Town. For the game mechanics, this is the third game in the Mario RPG saga, and it follows the mechanics of its predecessors, where battle is the main feature. The player will explore the world progressively, meeting enemies that will give experience when defeated. The battles take place in turns, where the heroes can choose to perform certain actions depending on whether they are Mario, Luigi, or Bowser. Some of these actions are the jump and the hammer for Mario and Luigi, or the punch, absorb, and throw flames for Bowser. Likewise, the characters acquire special attacks as the story progresses. For Mario and Luigi, attacks are obtained by finding puzzle pieces, and are used in combat with the A and the B buttons, while for Bowser, attacks are obtained by freeing his minions from the cages in which they were put by Fawful, and are used by the stylus. A new mechanic in the series is the Battle of the Giants, in which a giant enemy kills Bowser, but he is revived by Mario and Luigi, giving him enormous size and strength. These battles take place with the console on its side, and Bowser actions will be controlled using the stylus. This game also has a mini-game mechanic such as reviving Bowser or temporarily increasing his strength. For the controls, Mario, Luigi and Bowser move around the world with the arrows on the D-pad, which in combat it used to select actions with left and right. Buttons A and B are used to control Mario and Luigi's actions. At the beginning of the game they can only jump with these buttons. but as they advance, they gain special actions such as hammers and special moves with them. The X and Y buttons are used to control Bowser's actions. Early in the game, he can punch with X and shoot flames with Y, but as he progresses, he gains special actions like the bomb jump or spike ball. To switch between actions with any character, use the R button. With the Alt button, you cancel any action in combat. The stylus is used mostly in minigames, but it is also used for the Battle of Giants and for Bowser's special attacks. The Start button pauses the game and accesses the hero's inventory menu. The microphone is used for some minigames and to power the launch of the flames in the Battle of Giants. All that said, the score we put to the game is 9 to 10. It is an innovative game in the way it allows you to control the most famous Mario's enemy and make an unexpected alliance between heroes and villains. One of the most remarkable things of the game is the music. Its mechanics are simple but interesting, making it an easy and short game for every people.
In this review, I am going to talk about the Pokémon Sword video game for the Nintendo Switch platform, launched on November 15, 2019, and created by the company Game Freak Co. Game Freak Co. is a Japanese video game developer, best known as the primary developer of the Pokémon series of role-playing video games published by Nintendo. Crediting this video game company, Game Freak was a self-published video game magazine created by Satoshi Tajiri and Ken Sugimori in the 1980s. Tajiri wrote and edited the text and Sugimori illustrated. Tajiri also used Game Freak as his pen name when he wrote as a freelance writer to publications such as Family Computer Magazine and Famicom Tissue. On April 26, 1989, Tajiri Sugimori and Junichi Masuda started a video game development company with the same name. One of Game Freak's first name was the Nintendo Entertainment System action and puzzle game Quinty, which was released in North America and Metal Palace. Its most popular series, Pokémon, the romanized portmanteau of the Japanese brand Pocket Monster, is published and distributed respectively by the Pokémon Company and Nintendo worldwide. In October 2015, Game Freak bought Koa Games, a mobile development company. And in February 2020, Game Freak transferred from its building in Tokyo to a much larger office from Nintendo, which planned to relocate 4 other buildings of the company with their division plus other companies in Kanda, Nishi, Kyoto, Tokyo. With this, Game Freak is currently on the same building of Nintendo EPD Tokyo, Nintendo PDT Tokyo, HAL Laboratory, and 1UP Studio. According to ESBR, Pokémon Sword was a rating for everyone, comic mild and mild cartoon violence, and is from the genre role-playing video game and turn-based strategy video game with adventure elements, presented in the third person, with an aerial perspective, with a target audience of 13 to 21 years, mainly preteens and adolescents. However, there are older people like me who play it for the nostalgia and childhood memory it brings.
This video game is part of the first games of the 8th generation of Pokémon, for which main characters from the series and their Pokémon are presented, such as Pikachu, Sarina, Waftable, Meow, among others. Although the player is in charge of customizing his character, a young trainer who goes into a quest to catch and train creatures known as Pokémon, and win battles against other trainers. In addition to this main character, there are the legendary Pokémon Zacian and Zamazenta. The enemies within this game are wild Pokémon or other gym leaders, who when defeated by the user into a turn-based battle, allow the player's Pokémon to gain experience, allowing them to level up and increase their battle stats, learning new battle techniques, and in some cases evolve into more powerful Pokémon. Players can capture wild Pokémon found during random encounters while carrying them in battle and trapping them with Pokeballs, allowing them to add to their team. The difference with the previous video games is that this one takes place in the Galar region, a region based of the Unit Kingdom, a large and high stretch of land and some one of the many regions of the Pokémon world, which is taken from the Pokémon Sun and Moon series. There is no such thing as timeline of levels, since each player decides how to travel and interact in the world of Galar and decides in what order to compete with the gym leaders to win their medals. The controls of this game are those of the Nintendo Switch console, the Joy controls, type of controls, gamepad, which follow the traditional patterns that the console have, where with the letters can pick up, select, and other with the small button you can move the character around the world. Finally, this video game has novelties such as the Galar region, gyms, wild Pokémon, Dynamax, Galar forms, Pokédex, and Mega Evolutions. We give this video game a score of 8 points. Since although the graphics, the music, and the experience is very good. The story remains the same and maintains the its predecessors. The story and the dynamics remains its predecessors. The story and the dynamics remains its predecessors.